Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 22-year-old competitive bowler from Canada, currently living near Frankfurt, Germany. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record all of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. If you remember back at the end of yesterday's episode, I mentioned how going forward for our workouts, I might start putting finding some old videos of old boulders I've done, sort of in my archive of 3 years worth of climbing footage, and sort of put them on the screen while we're doing our workout and kind of talk about them. Just because after watching the same workout a few times, it can definitely be less interesting, especially when there aren't new exercises for a little bit. But I'm not going to do that today because we actually do have some new exercises, and I think there's things to talk about during this workout. So I'll probably just do that start going forward. But I think today what I'll do is kind of do a reintroduction to my workout, especially because we have a lot of new viewers since I've sort of introduced these exercises. So that's what I'll do that's what I'll do for today's episode. So we started off with our half crimp hangs. That's kind of like my bread and butter, is the 2-hand hangs on the small Beastmaker rung. This is sort of our cushion day where we're just going to do a 100-pound hang to sort of ease into it before I start really pushing the weight again, because we just came off a rest week. And then now we're doing our silver hangs. And if you notice, I have on the screen here my timer. I haven't really featured it on the screen yet, and I can kind of just give some explanation into how I kind of use my timer. You'll notice I have sort of like an 8-second countdown. So I just hit start. I have 8 seconds to get from kneeling on the ground to before my feet lift off the floor. That's kind of like my sweet spot. That's like how much time works well for me. And then so what's interesting as well is we're moving into this next training phase where our reps and set ranges are being adjusted. So as we're getting closer to a target event, we're cutting down the volume, obviously, because we're trying to peak. So instead of doing our 5-second hangs for 6 sets, which we've been doing for the past month and a bit, now we are starting to move into our 2 to 5 second hangs, and we're only going to be doing 5 sets for this training cycle. So what happens with my timer is I got 8 seconds to get on the crimp or the sloper, and same thing with the pinch. Actually, the pinch I have a 3-second countdown before I lift it. It's just a little bit different. And then what I do is I have a timer that sort of counts down for 2 seconds, then I get a ding, and that counts down for 3 seconds as well, and then I get another ding. So as soon as I start my hang, after 2 seconds, I'm going to get a ding, and that means I can fail the rep if I want to, but of course I'm going to try and make it to 5 seconds. That's how my 2 to 5 second hangs work, and it really helps push my maximum weight, I find. And here, check out this comment I have on the screen. Shout out to Kid Climber. So a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how I have noticed some wrist weaknesses of mine. I feel really bad on massive slopers where it's all in the wrist power. And I also have a bad wrist. I have sort of a permanently injured wrist on my right hand. And I think it's just maybe my wrists are a bit weak, and I've never really made an effort to train them, my wrists specifically. I'll train the slopers and the Beastmaker edge, but I find that that usually targets the forearms and the fingers a bit more. So yeah, I'm gonna give the Rolling Thunder a try. I've had a couple recommendations to try this, and I've also thought about it in the past myself. I've had some friends tell me to do it as well, and I have never done it. Today was my first time ever trying to train it, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. I noticed, so the idea with Rolling Thunder is you have the spinning bar, and then you grab it, and you have to try and keep the bar like this, whereas since it's rolling, your hands kind of want to fall into this position. But the way you train your wrists is that you really try and keep the bar you're sort of rolling it upwards. And I found it was really working the tops of my forearms and my wrists, and I really, really liked it. So today was just purely to ease into it. I just kind of messed around with the weight, and 44 pounds felt pretty, I was being a little bit challenged, so I just stuck with that. And I bet since this is a new exercise and I'll start doing it a lot, I'll see exponential progress, and it should come really fast. But I'm really excited to train this, and hopefully I'll notice some stronger feeling and more stability on these super massive slopers that I've not been feeling so great on. So yeah, we just went and we did our dips and our military press. We're also moving to 2 reps now instead of 3 reps, which we've been doing previously. Same sort of idea. We're getting close to our target event where we were trying to peak. And so I just did sort of the same weights that I finished with in the last training cycle, and then we can start pushing it as we go from there. And now also on this training cycle, we got our plyos back in our lower body plyometrics. So we didn't do any of these in the last training cycle. I've kind of mentioned in the past as well, I like to do these sort of as we're getting close to an event, really get my jumping ability feeling super strong. I find a couple of cycles out from an event, I'll do my pistol squats, and I'll get this sort of some really good strength going. And then as we get closer to an event, I'll try and turn it into explosive power. So the first exercise we started with was the kneeling jump squats. I've kind of explained these in the past, but like I said, we have a lot of new viewers at this point, so I'll break them down again. Kneeling jump squats, the idea with the exercise is to jump out of a kneeling position, and then as soon as your feet hit the ground, you want to be off of it as fast as possible. So it's not about the height that you're getting, it's about the speed in which your feet hit the ground and then you leave it. It builds some really good explosive power. And then the rolling jump squats, the pistol squat roll jumps, or the previous exercise that we were doing. The sort of idea is, you lay on your back, you roll, and then you can use your arms and as much momentum as you want, and then you just jump out of like a pistol squat position. And obviously this is like a really great exercise to train sort of like the run, like skip jump moves that you see all the time in competitions these days. And this is a great exercise to sort of mimic that exact sort of explosive power that you have to do. And then we finish with some standard long jumps. For long jumps, what I do is same sort of thing as the pistol squat roll jumps. You can just use as much momentum as you want with your arms. And the idea is just to go as far as you can and use as much of your body as you need to get like some super explosive power going. And that's just pretty self-explanatory. Helps, really good explosive jumping, good for just any kind of dyno. And so that wrapped up the workout. That workout ended up taking me about 2.5 hours in total. I haven't necessarily done that workout with those exercises in that sequence, so it was interesting to give it a try. And then obviously you'll notice that we did our workout first. In the past, I think in all the comp climbs so far, we've been doing our workout second, like as our very last day of our 2-day blocks. But I have to do it in the morning because of what we're doing right now, which is our endurance. And I can't do anything after endurance because the training will just be so bad. Like endurance is just absolutely exhausting all the time. So I'm kind of forced to do the workout in the morning, which is fine. I don't mind doing the workout in the morning. The only kind of reason why I usually do it second and don't usually do it in the morning is because it takes so much longer to warm up, especially for my crimp hangs when I'm trying to do like my maximum hangs. When I do them in the second session, I sort of have like a base layer of warmth, like I've mentioned previously, and that allows myself to warm up really fast, and my fingers feel super secure and solid, and it actually helps with injury prevention to kind of have done a session already. And as long as I'm recovered properly, I have like a base layer of warmth, and my fingers can get going really fast, and I can start just doing my workout easier and sooner. Whereas in the morning, like they feel a bit stiff, and it takes way longer to warm up, and sometimes I can almost get ahead of myself and start like doing my max hangs like sooner than I should, whereas maybe I could have used like 1 or 2 more warm-up hangs. And like I mentioned previously as well, when I warm up for my workout, I don't do any climbing. A lot of people will like to climb for their workouts and their hangboard as a warm-up, which, I think is actually good. It's all like kind of personal preference. I just sort of like the convenience factor of like just warming up on the hangboard and then going and doing the workout. So that's usually what I do. I just like start on a big, like a jug, I hang for a bit, and then I like hang on a smaller edge, and then I do go to a bigger edge with some weight, and a smaller edge, and then add a bit more weight and the same sort of thing. And then I do like a super short warm up for the slopers and a super short warm up for the pinches as well, right before I do those. Now here are doing our endurance. We did our workout at Boulderhaus, Darmstadt, and then took the train over to Studio Bloc for our endurance. Studio Block just has so many boulders to choose from, so it was like, and I find it's actually like sort of easier to film in Studio Block a lot of times. I find the camera's less invasive just because of how the gym is spaced out, so I thought it would be a good place to do endurance. I can, like, the nice thing about all these big German gyms is I can pretty much do endurance at any gym I want. Like Boulderhaus, Studio Block, or Boulderhaus, any of these gyms are good for endurance. They just have a lot of boulders to choose from. So I just chose to do it at Studio Block today because I find like I have more room to sort of film and like not invade sort of the customers' sessions of their own. So yeah, I'm also going to take a second now to just shout out our title sponsor for the COMPCLIMB series, which is Climbers Rock. It's Maddie and I's home gym back in Canada, and it's the best climbing facility in the Toronto area. And without their support, this video series would not be possible. So you can find out more information with the link in the description if you're interested. So now, what we're doing for endurance is basically I just do 4x4s, and that's sort of just what I do for my endurance. Some people have like there's a whole different bunch of ways you can train endurance. My personal preference is 4x4s. Some people do, on the minutes, which is like where you pick a boulder and you attempt it like every 60 seconds, which I've done previously and I liked. I still happen to like 4x4s better. Some people do pyramids, but yeah, 4x4s is kind of my jam. And what I'll do with these endurance sessions is I'll do 5 to 6 boulders and then obviously 4 reps each. So like some days I'll just be so gassed where I kind of need to cut off one set. That's why I give myself an option to do 5 to 6 sets. You'll notice that with all of our sort of workouts and training, I don't usually give myself that sort of option to fluctuate. That being said, like I'll kind of adjust my workouts as I go, like whenever I need them. whenever I need to, like even if it's not necessarily written in the program, just because sometimes you just can't follow your program perfectly, and that's just because we're only human. But yeah, here it's like pretty obvious. Like some sessions I'll just barely be able to do even 5, but some I'll just be like, yeah, I can bang out a 6th set. So today I expected to just do 5 sets. That's kind of what I had planned going into it anyway, because we haven't done endurance in quite a while. I think the last time I did endurance was at the end of our first COMPCLIMB series. Well, not at the end of the series, but at the end of our BC portion of that trip. So we did some endurance and some 4x4s while we were training in Victoria, and we were training at Boulderhaus. And it's funny, like there's a gym called Boulderhaus in Canada and British Columbia, but not to be confused with the Boulderhaus that is in Darmstadt. So yeah, we're doing some 4x4s. I had 5 boulders that I picked up before the session. And here's so obviously what I mentioned in the last video, yesterday's video, is that when we're doing these sessions, and sometimes they can be a bit boring, like after I've explained everything and sort of my process between about how I do my workouts and what exercise I do and why, it can be a bit monotone or monotonous. So I'll sort of put some old clips of my boulders on the screen, and we can talk about those as well, and because I won't necessarily be able to come up with a tip of the day when I'm doing endurance and a workout. Like what is my climbing movement tip of the day going to be, because I'm just doing moderates while I'm doing endurance, and I'm not really learning anything about climbing while I'm doing it. So that's why we'll sort of use the old boulders that I've done. Like I have, like I said, 3 years worth of footage. Just I upload it all to my iCloud drive, and it's great. I can just draw from it whenever I want. And I got a lot of stuff to reference, and I have a really good memory too. So I can just come up with a boulder, oh yeah, that boulder I did on this date, and I have all these folders and all the date periods with all these boulders I've done listed, so I can go find these clips easily when they come to my mind. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun actually, and I'm excited to sort of talk about these old boulders and also make these videos more interesting. Like I said, the idea with this COMPCLIMB series is obviously to show all the training that I'm doing. But that being said, now that our channel is growing, I'm always going to try and optimize for you viewers as well. And so if we're doing some training that's not so interesting, I'm going to try and find a way to make the video more engaging and more interesting. And I think that's what I'm going to start doing with these days. But obviously, like I said, we're not doing that today because this is sort of our introduction day to this sort of day of training. And I do actually have a tip of the day that is not necessarily a climbing movement, but I think it's a good sort of training tip of the day for endurance. And that is that you can actually do endurance on a lot of different style boulders, in my opinion. Different coaches and different climbers and athletes will have their own sort of opinions on this. But my opinion is there's a way larger spectrum of boulders that you can do endurance on and actually gain some value from it. A lot of people will say, oh, I got to do boulders that are sort of just steep or, just sort of powerful climbing, and they have to be a certain amount of move long. And of course, if that's sort of the training you're going for, then, and that's your prerogative, then of course. In my opinion though, let's just take 4x4s for example, because that's what we're doing obviously. Look at me just going around and around. Zach must be getting dizzy there. No, I'm just kidding. So in my opinion, let's take 4x4s. I will do almost any sort of different style of boulder for 4x4s, because at the end of the day, if the boulder is hard enough and it's exhausting, then you're going to be getting value from it. The only sort of boulders I would say I would try to avoid are the low percentage boulders where it's easy to mess up a move, and then all of a sudden your sort of reps are just messed up because you didn't stick a runny do or a toe catch or something. That being said though, if I'm feeling risky and I'm feeling super good, I might actually try to do these boulders where I actually take a runny do or a toe catch and try to do a 4x4 on that. And the logic behind this is because I'm doing this sort of training to help myself perform better in a 5-on-5 off round in a comp. I'm trying to build up my cardio, I'm trying to build up my resistance and sort of my overall capacity so that I just get exhausted less easily. And I'm doing this to perform in a 5-on-5 off round where we're doing comp style boulders. And so by training on 4x4s on comp style boulders with these sort of comp style moves and moves that don't necessarily seem so physical and wouldn't necessarily be taxing, but by doing 4x4s on this, it's actually such a direct translation to what the whole purpose of myself training this for competition. That if you're sort of doing 4x4s to get better as a route climber or train your sort of lead climbing resistance strength, then that's a different story. Obviously you don't want to be doing 4x4s on a runny do or something. But for my purposes, which is to be able to have a better capacity for a 5-on-5 off boulder round, do 4x4s on any style boulder is my recommendation and my tip of the day. Like take like a dyno and do 4x4s on that. I've actually done 4x4s on slabs once or twice before, and it is so awesome too, and it's legit. Like a super, like maybe not like a no hand slab, but like a slab where maybe you're using your arms a bit, it can be really tiring at first, and it's a great challenge. And you'll encounter this in a competition. You'll be like, on a slab, and like you're tiring up by the end of it because it uses a whole lot of muscles to stabilize on a slab and be like super bouncy. And it's a great way to practice it when you're training your 4x4s if you actually go and do it. So that being said, today was kind of sort of our introduction to endurance. So obviously you didn't see me necessarily get on any of these style climbs today. I just picked some moderate stuff, stuff that I knew I would probably be able to execute, which we did. I was able to not fall at all during the session, which was definitely a fight though. Like these boulders weren't easy. I was really trying hard at the end of like a lot of those reps. But yeah, as we go forward and as my resistance starts building up, which it comes really fast, I notice every time I start an endurance cycle, we'll definitely start getting on some harder boulders, and I'm going to challenge myself to do like some weird boulders for 4x4s. Like I'll probably do a slab at some point, and some dynos and whatnot, but it should be really good. And that's my tip of the day is if you train 4x4s, mix up the boulders and throw some weird stuff in there. And so tomorrow's my rest day, but that being said, like I mentioned in the last episode, that means you can expect a Maddie episode of COMPCLIMB. We're gonna start like dishing out our content where it goes like Zach episode, Maddie episode, and that 3-day cycle repeats. And that's because my training is obviously 2 days on, 1 day off. And then on my rest day, in the past, I wasn't putting out a video, but now Maddie's gonna fill the gap with a video of hers. So you can expect a Maddie episode tomorrow. So tune in for that. Insert catchy outro to the video here.